Welcome. Hello, my name is Samantha and I'm from Prep for Success Tutors. Essentially what we're going to be running through today is the new LSAT essay. So the reason why I say new LSAT essay is because in August 2024, when they removed the logic games, they actually revamped the essay section as well. So essentially what we're going to run through today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about the essay, why it's important, and how the LSAT grades it, if at all. And then from there, we're going to actually jump in and take a look at a sample essay, take a look at a sample prompt, and really dig deep to understand how you can make the best essay. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and delve right in. All right, so here we're going to actually use our Prep for Success LSAT book. We're going to start at Chapter 5, the LSAT essay, and we're going to delve into the general information about the test first. So first, you actually take it on a different day than the official exam. So you're going to go through all the other sections, the logical reasoning, the reading comp, and so on. And then on a different day after, you're going to go ahead and take this essay section. Now, the second thing is it is mandatory, so you can't get away with not doing the essay section. Now, if you don't do the essay section, you actually don't get your score back. So you need that in order to get your scores. Now, it is an unscored section. Even though it is unscored, it does matter. A lot of times people say, oh, this essay isn't very important because it's non-graded. Now, yes, that is true that this is a non-graded portion of the LSAT. Now, LSAT is venturing into the idea of possibly grading it in the future, but as of now, if you're watching this video, we're publishing this in April of 2025, so if you're watching around this time, they do not plan to do that within the upcoming months, but definitely double check if you're watching this video a little bit later. Because they might start grading it. But yes, it is super, super important that you give it your all. And the reason is because this is one time that the law schools can actually see your pure abilities to write. Now, you might be like, well, yeah, you got your personal statement too. So a lot of times, a lot of people will spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars hiring outside resources in order to help them create the best essay. Also, nowadays with ChatGPT and all those other AI sources, it's pretty easy to just develop a quick essay from there, and a pretty good one without spelling errors or comma errors or grammar or anything along those lines. So essentially, if let's say you use one of those platforms to create your personal statement, and then you go in and make a not so great essay there, there's going to be some discrepancies. So this is the one time that you're actually able to show your true abilities and stand out from the rest of the crowd. Now, even though it does matter and it is mandatory and all, it only needs to be done once. Meaning, if you take the test multiple times, you do not need to do it the second and third time. Now, if you feel that you could even do better on the second or third time, or maybe you didn't try it the first time around and you want to try it even more, you absolutely can do it again, but you do not need to. Now, the next one is there is no spell check or grammar check, so you're not going to have that for the test. And there actually is not a copy and paste function either. So if, let's say, you're doing brainstorming at the beginning and typing some things out, you can't just copy and paste that and put that over in your essay. So it's best to really just bullet point things. And also it stinks if you're moving around paragraphs, if that's the way you like to work at the end. It's good to know that. And it's good to do a couple practice essays ahead of the game just to really make sure that you know the format of the essay. So with that, now we're going to jump in. We're going to take a look at the LSAT essay directions. So why don't you take a moment, just pause this video. I want you to read through what you see here on the screen. If it is hard to see this, you also can go on LSAC and type in the LSAT essay directions there, and you'll be able to find it. All right, awesome. So now that you took a look at this, so the essay directions are for what they call the argumentative essay. So if you hear anyone say that, that is the LSAT writing sample that we're going to be doing here. Now, you actually do have some pre-writing time. So within that pre-writing time, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but you're going to be doing brainstorming stages, then you're going to be writing the essay, and then you're going to do a little bit of proofreading after that. Now, there is no special background knowledge or anything like that that you need to know for this writing exercise, but what we are expected is this right here. So we have a strong response will, do all of these things. One, clearly state the thesis of your argument. So it's really, really important that you have a strong direction of what you're trying to prove and that it's proven throughout the entire essay and you don't jump around. The next one is develop your thesis through your essay by connecting specific examples. So you can't just say like, oh, I feel this way. And it's like, okay, well, why do you feel that way? Why are you arguing that, right? So you need to have specific examples that connect to your overall thesis and explain their relevance to the thesis. You need to have clear reasoning around this as well. And then also addressing the complexities and implications of your essay's position. So what that means is like, for example, here by identifying and addressing one or more potential counter arguments. So we're going to talk about the counter arguments later, but those are really, really important to have in your essay. And as you can see, that's one of the 3 bullet points that they weigh heavily in your, say, score, quote unquote. We know that it's not scored, but it weighs heavily in if it's a good essay or not. Then it also says that your essay should demonstrate your ability to clearly state your position, which is essentially just your thesis statement, develop and support ideas with reasoning and examples. Again, that goes on with their first point or the second point as well. Also, organize your ideas clearly and logically. You want to have like a paragraph essay. You don't want to have just one paragraph with all of your ideas lumped in. Make sure it's organized properly. Topic sentences, concluding sentences, thesis, conclusion, intro, so on. And then also communicate ideas using clear and effective chosen language. So what that includes is that means correct spelling, correct grammar, sentence structures proper, all of those things as well. So those are the main things that they're gonna, again, quote unquote, grade on. Again, I know it's not a graded test, but that is something that they look for. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's take a look at the actual essay prompt. So once again, I want you to pause your screen. All right, now that you're done reading through this, there's more to the prompt. So I want you to pause your screen again and take a quick read through this. All right, so as you see here, we're going to scroll back up to the top. So we have one key question, and that key question here is, to what extent do colleges and universities serve their students' best interest when they emphasize career preparation? So now you might right off the bat agree with that. Right off the bat, you might disagree with that. But notice a really, really key thing here is it says to what extent. So the best essays tell the extent. They just don't say, yes, I agree with this, or no, I disagree with this. It's actually saying that, well, I agree with this in these types of situations, but not always due to X, Y, and Z. So they have a more complicated thesis, and those are the ones that the universities actually look highest on. So with that, there's always going to be 4 different perspectives. Notice we have this perspective, we have this perspective, this one, and this one. Now, your original thought, you might have been like, oh yeah, I definitely line up with perspective 1 or perspective 2. Or you might be like, wow, this is the exact opposite. Now that's great. If you have one of these that you line up perfectly with, that's great to help prove your point. If you see that one of these is completely opposite of your point, that's great, because that's going to be your counter argument. So let's now go ahead and look at the step-by-step process. So you're going to have your pre-writing. So this is what I was talking about before, where you actually have 15 minutes that they dedicate to pre-writing. You can't spend it on writing your essay. And the reason is because, like I said, you can't copy and paste. So you can't be like, oh, I'm going to pull a fast one on them and I'm going to actually just start writing right now and then just copy and paste that information on over to my piece. It doesn't work that way. So this is strictly for pre-writing. This is for bullet points, getting your ideas out, moving things around, hashing things out, and just making sure that you know exactly what you're going to be putting within your essay. Now, some of the pre-writing things that you might want to think about is like, what perspective do you find most compelling? What relevant insight do you see in the perspectives? What principles or values do you see at work? What strengths and weaknesses can you find in these perspectives? Essentially just trying to think about what side of the argument you're coming in on and what examples. Also, pre-writing is a great time to start thinking about your examples. So if you're like, okay, I agree on side A, what are all your examples of side A and why side A is going to be the best? Now here is a little bit more information of what your argument should entail. So it says, what knowledge do you already have about this issue? Trying to pull in some outside knowledge. It could be experiences. It could be, you don't want to pull in like direct evidence of like 50% of people do blah, 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 because you can't really cite that in here, but you can bring just kind of general knowledge in. Also, what values influence your position, just start trying to thinking about those. And then what experiences, right? So like I mentioned before, it's okay to pull in your own experiences into this. So once you start pre-writing, once you start getting an idea of what, what you're actually going to be writing in this essay, we're going to jump to outlining the essay. Now, this is really part of those 35 minutes. You get 15 minutes for pre-writing and then 35 minutes for the whole essay process as well as proofreading. So here, I typically suggest to do a 5-paragraph essay that looks something like this here. So within your first paragraph, you're going to do an introduction. Now, your introduction can be short, sweet, to the point. It does not have to be anything crazy. It could be 1 to 2 sentences. That is totally sufficient. But the main thing that needs to be included is your thesis statement. If your thesis statement is not included in your intro, then it did not do its purpose. Now we're going to jump into paragraph 2, and this is supporting your thesis with perspectives. And I put perspectives with an S here because it could be one of the perspectives that you just read. Remember, the perspectives are those different arguments that you read up here. So it could either be one of those that you think lines up perfectly, or it could be a perspective that is maybe 2 or 3 of those that can help prove your point. Now, also, when you're pulling in those perspectives, you have a few different ways of doing it. You could either directly quote the perspective, or you could summarize. Also, you can reference and say it in multiple different ways, like as perspective 1 states, or as a research article notes, or some people may say, right? So you could be vague on this. You could actually say exactly where it comes from, or you could just make it a general point. Now, paragraph 3 is support your thesis with another perspective. So here, if let's say you have enough evidence that you could break this into 2 paragraphs and you can have 2 paragraphs supporting, that is best. But if you can't, then that is okay to nix this 3rd paragraph and only have a 4-paragraph essay, which is the intro, the paragraph 2, jumping to paragraph 4, and then paragraph 5. And then from there, we're going to jump on over to acknowledge the counter argument with those perspectives. So a counter argument is essentially where you pull in the opposing side and let us know why that side is not good. Now, the best example that I could give for this is, let's say an election's coming up, right? And someone comes up to you and says, hey, what candidate are you voting for? Are you candidate A or candidate B? And you're like, oh, for sure, candidate A. And you're like, cool, why? And you list everything out. Well, that's essentially paragraph 2. That's supporting your thesis, telling why candidate A is better. But then if they come to you and say, oh, cool, okay, so those are all great reasons why you want to go with candidate A, but why not candidate B? And you're like, well, I don't know. I didn't do any research on candidate B. They're going to be like, okay, so you're not really a credible source, because how do you know that B, like, yeah, sure, A has a lot of great qualities, but how do you know B is not even better, right? So that is a counter argument. A counter argument is saying, well, B is not good because, even though some might say blah, 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 it's not good because blah, 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 right? So it's talking about that, like other perspective, and basically negating it, showing why it's not good. And that is something that is absolutely crucial and absolutely needed. And then last but not least is, well, obviously, once you've laid out all these paragraphs and once you know what you're writing about, you're going to actually have to write the essay. Now, like I mentioned, the intro and conclusion could be 1 to 2 sentences. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You have 35 minutes to write this. Each paragraph can be about the 5 to 7 sentence mark. That's totally fine. It doesn't have to be, again, anything too crazy. They know that you have a short amount of time. So it's not like they're comparing your essay that you only have 35 minutes with someone else that has 4 hours to write this amazing essay. Everyone has the same amount of time. Everyone's cramming everything in. So really the goal is just to make sure that you're able to write the best essay that you can within that time. And then I cannot stress this enough, save time for proofreading. At least 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes at the end, proofread your essay, spelling, grammar, sentence structure, all of that matters. So you really, really want to make sure that this essay is the absolute best. So with that being said, I know that was a lot of information there, but what I would suggest at this point is now going to LSAT and actually going to your Law Hub account and pulling up an essay. Now, we took a look at this one here, so I want you actually to try and write this. Once you try and write this, feel free to come back to your tutor or come back to whoever you're working with, have them look through it and give you some feedback on it. They'll be sure to pinpoint maybe where you could tighten up your sentence structure, where you could have a better argument or maybe have a better explanation. But you want to make sure that you do your first essay non-timed. Just relax, run through it, stress-free, just really get the rhythm of it, right? But then after that, then do it timed, because on test day, it is going to be timed and you want to make sure that you're going to be able to finish on time, right? So definitely do the first one, do it non-timed, do the second one, do it timed. And then once you get in the rhythm, maybe you have to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, but once you get in the rhythm, once you feel like, all right, I got this, then you're ready to go ahead and take the official LSAT essay. All right, so with that being said, thanks so much for watching. And if you're looking forward to some more tips and tricks and strategies in regards to the LSAT, feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.